be a way a parent can pick up the phone and be able to, instead of getting the runaround, get access to the information that you need.
And that's exactly.
But we're paying extraordinary salaries. We are adding additional staff to the central office. This is another thing that we should talk about. The fact that we see this expanding BPS budget. Where is that money going to? We've added 700 new jobs to the central office in the bowling building, the exact building we're talking about. So we've added 700 additional staff members there, and you as a parent couldn't pick up the phone, or you as an uncle couldn't pick up the phone and find some help for your nephew, even though we've added 700 new people, and we have the same or less kids in BPS. So what are those 700 people doing? That's a question that we as parents and we as taxpayers are going to start asking people.
And one thing that I noticed, because I went to a meeting in Lawrence and the one in East Boston, is that parents are passionate about the kids' education. I mean, they do realize that that's the most precious asset they can leave their kids.
It absolutely is. And you've been to several Massachusetts Parents United meetings. The meetings you're talking about in Lawrence, we're meeting in East Boston, we're meeting in Dorchester, in Grove Hall, we're meeting in Springfield, we're meeting in Lowell, because parents are powerful and parents care about their children. But the reason why parents have not been in motion and have not organized is because they've been so beaten down and so disrespected in times, and made to feel like they're stupid or they're bad parents, or that nobody can help them with their problem. But there is a way that we can unlock that, and we do it by making our meetings as easy as possible. So if you're watching this program right now and you're interested in what we're doing in Massachusetts Parents United, we help you with transportation. We provide free childcare. We feed everybody. We make it in a space that's in your neighborhood so that you can get out there and it's not a crazy commute for you. But what we want to do is make sure that we create these safe spaces where parents can say, this is what the real problem is. We talk about all these really obscure things, that we want to solve all of these systemic giant problems that we have. And I acknowledge that we have some really huge problems in terms of dealing with children with trauma and addressing some of the institutional racism that we have within the system. But really in our neighborhood schools, it's very black and white, some of the easy fixes and some of the easy things that we can do if we listen to parents. And some of the schools that have figured this out, what we're hearing from a lot of parents too is when you take a look at our parent report cards and you see there are schools that are failing our kids. You take schools, for instance, in Dorchester, the King Elementary School or the Sarah Greenwood School. You take a look at the test scores there, and that we have children, African-American children, Latino little boys who have, in third grade, they're at 3% proficiency in reading. And we know that that's the indicator that will determine if your child's not on grade level in third grade, that's the school to prison pipeline right there. But we know that these schools, for some reason, cannot reach these children that they're trying to educate. But when you look at the whole parent report card that we've put together through Massachusetts Parents United, there are schools that get it. So as parents, we have to sit back and say, well, if we have the King or we have the Sarah Greenwood that is failing kids and not being able to teach them how to read to grade level, and then you have schools right down the street who are teaching the same demographics, same kids, but they've figured out how to do it and are actually getting those test scores, why are they not talking to each other? Why are they not working together?
And that's the type of things that bother me, because I do know that if they know how to run Boston Latin School, and they know what it takes to run that school, why they don't replicate those curriculums in the schools in our neighborhoods. And that's part of the movement that we are trying to start. We're trying to say, listen, we pay taxes. And those taxes are the ones that are used to fund education, fund healthcare, even fund wars. Because right now, they're taking away our president, okay? Not elected, but well, through the
Electoral College is installed as president.
Exactly. It's taking away money from health, from education, and he wants to give tax breaks to the rich, okay, more money to their pocket. He wants to fund all these wars. They want to go bomb all these other countries all over the world. But then we have a society within the United States that could actually use that money to improve our education, to improve health, to improve our infrastructure that is falling apart.
Well, and here's the thing I would challenge you on, because this is what is going to be the conversation over the next year. Here in the city of Boston, in all of the gateway cities we've been talking about, and all of the places where MPU is starting our chapters, and on a statewide conversation, people are always talking about, we need more money in education, more money in education. And I'm with you. Like, I want to see better funding, fully funded foundation budget. I'm 100% with you. But just throwing money at the problem is not enough, because we in Boston have been throwing money at the problem for years. And again, I'm going to repeat it. We have invested over $200 million in additional funding to BPS, 25% increase in BPS funding, but still we're crying about cuts to schools. So where is that money going? That money is going directly into the pockets of teachers. Salaries that are already pretty amazing salaries are getting even higher as we speak, but then we're talking about keeping open schools that are underperforming and are half empty. There's only so much money, and we keep on throwing more money at it. We can't just throw money at the problem. We've got to also find solutions as to how to spend that money correctly.
Exactly. I went to a town hall meeting over in Grove Hall that Tito Jackson conducted, and the questions that I have for him is he couldn't answer. First of all, he believes in a centralized public system. The budget has grown from $1 billion to $1.25 billion. I mean, that's a big number. That's a lot of money.
For decreasing enrollment. So the amount of money we're spending is going up, the number of kids we're educating is coming down, and we still can't figure it out. So that is not a funding problem. It seems like we have a budgeting and math problem. And I mean, yesterday, just in the Boston Herald, we find out that we're paying a consultant $2,000 a day to do God knows what. I would like to call on BPS and the administration to do a forensic accounting of what is actually happening there, because if this is one, I predict that that's probably just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to some of the problems there of how we're wasting this money.
What would you tell a parent who actually it's having these problems, like his son or daughter is about to leave school because guess what, education is not something that they see immediately as a stepping stone to a better future, because in this public school system they're not being challenged. There's a whole bunch of issues going on within the school system when it comes down to security.
Well, see, that's the whole problem. I mean, you just had children on, and I hesitate to call them children because they're young adults, but you had kids on who are actually telling you what some of these issues are. If you have the shortest school day in America, which in Boston, we have the shortest school day in America. We have teachers who only teach 180 days a year. They get 20 personal days a year. So a teacher's barely in the classroom. What I hear from parents, and I have my own blog, edumom.org, we've actually asked parents to write in and talk about their experiences. And one mom wrote into me and said, probably the culture of apathy that we see in our schools is really what's disenfranchising our kids. So you have substitute teachers constantly because teachers are always out of the classroom. You have teachers who use excuses like, oh, well, it's vacation next week, so we're not going to start this new unit on a Tuesday because, Friday we're going to start vacation. So it's this culture of, oh, we'll wait, we've got time. Our kids do not have time to waste. When we have such a small school day, we've got a limited window. And frankly, the reason why this gets me fired up as a parent is that I don't get a do-over. You don't get a do-over as a parent. If the public school system doesn't work for my child this year, I can't go back and get third grade and have a do-over there. That doesn't happen. and it's our children.
Well,
This is why we've got to be
And if a
invested.
kid has to repeat the same grade, it's degrading for a kid to think that they're going to have to go and repeat the same grade. Here in the Boston Public System, they just move them along and not really gaining the knowledge that they need for the challenges they have for the next grade. I do know that we can stay here and talk all night about all these other issues, but we're going to come back in the weeks to come. We're going to have a live show, okay? And we're going to open up the phone line so that people that are watching us can see us. But right now, I want to go to a clip, because you do go on YouTube and Facebook, and you have this amazing talk show there that I want people to know about, that they can actually go. So why don't we do that for a couple of minutes?
Planet Mom Radio. Check it out.
Okay, so we're going to go right now.
A full life measured in seats starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
We taught him how to hit a baseball, how to hit a receiver, the strike zone, the net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome, Facebook Live. How are you? Planet Mom Radio once again from our beautiful and glamorous studios here at the Fields Corner Business Lab. And we're actually in the Adams Conference Room today, which is important because a couple of weeks ago when we did the podcast directly from the Massachusetts Parents United office, we did it with the door open, and I didn't realize that we were actually disrupting all of the other fine organizations who are in the building. Our good friend John Connolly came over and said, "Hey, I thought you were in there talking to yourself," and then we saw Erica in there, your wonderful co-host, and we heard the whole podcast live. So.
Whoops,
They
sorry.
didn't say we were disrupting. They just said we heard your wonderful laughter and voices. So we're trying to be a little bit more considerate today by broadcasting from our beautiful studios
Yes.
in the Adams Conference Room today.
Yep. We've got the door locked.
We're locked and loaded too. We've got a lot
And ready
to
to go.
talk about this week, as we always do.
Always.
And this is a big week. It's Park Week in Rhode Island, and we're gearing up for MCAS in Massachusetts as well. So big week for kids.
So it's Park Week at some schools. There's a window, and so they were allowed to start. So my oldest is in his third day of Park for ELA today, and my middle guy doesn't start till the last week in April. And
But 'tis the season.
'tis the season for the evil
The
testing.
evil test.
My child is more than a score. Have you heard that before? All right, we don't mean to mock, but come on, people.
It is kind of ridiculous. Last week I had a blog post talking about, the fight to kill the test, the BS behind trying to kill the test. The test is really important, just as a tool for a parent, certainly not to stress our kids out. And I actually had an interesting conversation with my oldest son, Matthew, who's 9 and in the 3rd grade, taking the MCAS for the first time. And we, I know the test is coming up. He knows the test is coming up. I mentioned it to him. I said, "Oh yeah, MCAS. So that's coming up. Are you excited?" And he actually had a physical reaction.
Okay, we're back here at the studios. We just had a roll-in on a special project that Carrie is doing.
A feisty conversation. We are two moms that are really passionate about education and want to be able to have our voices heard. And I think that's really where parents struggle right now, is that they feel like any question they ask is stupid. And they're made to feel like bad parents.
But it's not.
They are absolutely not.
The
And we-
legitimate questions.
Exactly. And we are the folks that have the most skin in the game. These are our children. And our education system is an education system. It's not an employment system. It's a system that's made to help our children. So our voices are critical to be a part of the conversation.
Massachusetts Parents United, going back to Massachusetts Parents United, I'm passionate about the project because it's basically 3 moms that started the project. You know, you're one of the organizers and founders of the project. So far, the number of members
4,000. 4,000 so
and
far.
it's not just in Boston. The project has expanded to Springfield,
Yes. Lowell, Lawrence, and then we have 2 chapters in Boston. We have one in Dorchester and we have one in East Boston. Parents are asking us to come to South Boston as well. And we're open to coming to any neighborhood where parents want to come together and need to learn how to organize for a voice. And part of what I want to also make sure is very clear is that we are a very grassroots organization. I don't go to any parent, no one associated with MPU goes to any parent chapter and says, well, this is what should be important to you. We have conversations